evening, Scotland. Good evening, social media land. I hope you're well. It is Sunday evening, the 13th of April, 2024. If you're still clinging to Labour in Scotland after this week, or even flirting with Farage and his reform cult, you've either not been paying attention or you've given up on Scotland entirely. Because while Westminster scrambles to save Scunthorpe, a steel town in England, it's letting Grangemouth die without a second thought. Labour said no, Reform has said nothing, and you are supposed to vote for these people. If you're a worker in Scotland, if you've ever broken your back to keep this country running, if you've ever believed the lie that Labour was on your side, this is your slap in the face. The Tories won't save you, Labour won't save you, and Farage, he didn't even mention you. Not one word, not one demand, and not one care. They're too busy chasing English votes to pretend to give a damn about Scotland. And let's be clear, Grangemouth could be saved. Scotland has the plan, Scotland has the workforce, Scotland has the potential to turn Grangemouth into a renewable hub without losing a single job. Westminster holds the purse strings, and it doesn't care what it burns as long as it's north of the border. So if you're still voting Labour in 2026, ask yourself this: what more do they need to destroy before you see the truth? And even if you're considering reform, ask yourself, why are you backing a man who would just wipe Scotland off the map if it made a good newspaper headline? Scotland deserves better than silence. Scotland deserves better than betrayal. Scotland deserves the power to save itself. Scunthorpe is getting attention. It might even get nationalised. Why? Because Keir Starmer is terrified of Nigel Farage and what reform might do to Labour's vote in working class parts of England. So now Labour's suddenly floating ideas like public ownership, nationalisation and intervention for English towns. Meanwhile, Grangemouth, Scotland's last oil refinery, a key part of our industrial future, is being left to rot. No offer, no emergency plan, no effort. And it gets worse. This week, the UK government recalled both the House of Commons and the House of Lords on Saturday, breaking Easter recess for the first time in 40 years to pass a bill that gives them emergency powers to block the closure of British Steel's blast furnaces in Scunthorpe. Not just a debate, not just a statement, a law written, tabled and passed in one day. They created an entirely new legal framework to stop a private company from closing down operations in England. Ownership transfer is now on the table, and Starmer warned that the future of British Steel hangs in the balance. And when SNP MPs stood up and asked if the same emergency powers could be used to save Grangemouth, they were told it wasn't a comparable situation. Amendments tabled by the SNP in Plaid Cymru to expand the bill to both Scotland and Wales weren't even debated. There was no time. So there was not one line of protection extended to Scottish workers. Not one. This is not some abstract example of constitutional imbalance. It's not a history lesson. This is the UK government proving in real time that it will break every rule to save English industry while letting Scottish industry just wither away. That is what political bias looks like. And it's not coming from one party. It's systemic. Labour and Tories united in one thing: Scotland is disposable. English jobs are protected. Scottish ones are explained away. Anna Sarwar stood in front of the Scottish electorate and promised Labour would save Grangemouth. But here we are. So either Sarwar was lying to your face, or Labour HQ in London just overruled him without a care. Which is it, Anis? Did you mean Grangemouth, or did you really mean Scunthorpe? And where's Nigel Farage in all this? He's banging the drum to save British steel. He's boasting how Labour now copies his policy. Grangemouth? Not a whisper. Because Farage does not care about Scotland. Reform UK has been loud about saving English jobs, but completely silent on saving Scottish ones. They didn't even pretend to care about Grangemouth, because they don't. That silence tells you everything. Reform doesn't care about Scotland's workers, Scotland's economy, or Scotland's future. And some folk in Scotland are still daft enough to think that voting for reform is a protest vote. Let's be blunt. Reform is not an anti-establishment party. It's just anti-Scottish. You don't fix betrayal by handing power to a man who wouldn't blink if Grangemouth burned to the ground. Labour says no to Grangemouth, Reform ignores it completely, and the Tories, well, they're watching the clock, waiting for the media to move on. If this isn't the moment that Scotland wakes up, then when? Grangemouth is not just a workplace. It's a symbol of what happens when a nation lacks control over its own economy, its own infrastructure, and its own future. Every time we rely on Westminster to protect us, we learn the same lesson. They don't protect us. Scotland can rebuild Grangemouth. It can lead in renewables. It can protect jobs, industry and communities. But only if we have the political power to act. And we don't. We're still begging for lifelines from governments who don't even pretend to represent us anymore. Labour won't save us. Reform can't. And Westminster as a whole just don't care. But Scotland can. If we take that power back to every undecided voter, every trade union member, every worker who thought Labour still had a soul, this is your moment of truth. You've seen what happens when our industries depend on England's elections. If Grangemouth can't wake you up, nothing will. So now I ask, will our movement, our pro-Scottish, our pro-independence movement, now put tribalism aside and work together tactically? Will the SNP place the future of our country above the hegemony of politics and start to work with the wider independence movement to install a pro-Scottish government and a pro-Scottish opposition in Holyrood next year? We need to look at this a lot more closely. We need to vote for control. We need to vote so we never have to go begging again. We need to vote for Scotland.